Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tatiana Show. Today is July 25th, 2017, and I'm broadcasting to you live from Hermosa Beach in California, just outside of Los Angeles. It's cloudy outside. I'm hoping that will change soon. We're missing Josh. He's like cruising around the Gibraltar or something like that, or some sort of a G place in Europe. Anyway, unfortunately, he won't be joining us today, but I'm happy because I've got two good friends. It's the Triple T episode, Tatiana, Tiana, and Terry. I just made that up now. This is some brilliant stuff here, guys. Tiana, you've been on the show before. Welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me again. It's been a while.
I know it's been a while since I've seen you overall, but you're always very, very busy. So for those of the audience that aren't really familiar with your work, I could tell them, oh, she wrote a book and she works at Factum. But why don't you share a little bit with us, so many people might not know.
Okay. So my general background is I started in this space as a Bitcoin miner. And then a few years ago, I helped form Factum with the Factum team. And then I have a book came out last May called Blockchain for Dummies through the Dummies series. And that's just sort of like a high level, fast, like who I am and what I do.
Cool. So what is Factum for people that don't understand what it is? Because I've had it explained to me several times, but some of my audience are not really technically inclined. They're using this as a way to learn. So tell me a little bit about Factum and what's been going on, because this project's been, you've been working on it for quite a while now. So how have things developed?
Yeah. So it's a blockchain. It works a little different than other blockchains. Some of the things that make it different are as it indexes entries into our system. So what that allows us to do is create unique chains. And why this is interesting is it lets us create enterprise level secure data and systems. So for example, we work with the Department of Homeland Security on securing IoT devices. That's the data that's coming off of these devices to make sure it hasn't been spoofed or backdated. And we're rolling into our third phase with the Department of Homeland Security on that project. Another project we have is with the Gates Foundation. And so what we're doing with them is distributed secure medical records in the developing world. So some of the asks were, there can't be connectivity in certain areas, and you need to have good privacy. So one of the things that you can do is, unlike other blockchains where you have to have the full data set to prove the data, you just need the data you're interested in. So it lets doctors pull down the records that they're interested in to a smartphone, go into the field, treat patients, create new records, and then when they return to connectivity, they can upload that new information. So that's some of the things that Factum does. We also build enterprise software for Fortune 500. So for loan origination systems for financial institutions that issue mortgages. So we have a product that helps make that much smoother and helps reduce costs for them, called Harmony.
So have people been actually using this stuff? Like the thing the thing with the Gates Foundation, is that something, why are they trying it out only in Africa? And why is a blockchain needed for that?
We're working with partners in South Africa, but they have a license to use this technology in the developing world. So any place that they don't have existing systems, they have the license to use this technology. So that could be places in India, all over the continent of Africa, places in Asia or South or Central America, which is pretty cool. It just happens to be, we have a partner that's working with us in South Africa.
Oh, okay, cool. So how long have people been using that on the ground? Are there what makes the blockchain the secure option versus a different solution? What was it that Factum offered and in general blockchain offered that made it better for people? Because I don't know, doesn't it just seem like you just have a gated thing, you can't see this? Like, is that just not possible to be implemented without blockchain tech?
Blockchain does a couple things really well. It creates persistent data that can't be backdated or changed. It's distributed, so it's the accessibility of it's really interesting. The linear nature where each record is stacked in front of the next, allows you to tell what happened when and who did it with cryptographic signatures. So those are really important when you want to conduct business with people you don't innately trust. So like when you want to transfer money between two individuals, or when you want to collaborate on like a loan document and you might have business interests that is in opposition if the deal went south. So that's where blockchain adds value beyond the speed of it. And that's why people are interested in this technology. Is we've come up with systems that allow us to work around it, but they tend to be cumbersome and slow and expensive and require a lot of middlemen and a lot of time. So, yeah.
That's neat. So how did you get approached to do the book? And what do you think made your book kind of the dummies book, right? Like, what do you think it is about your way of communicating it that made it accessible for dummies?
You know, I've loved this technology for a really long time, and going all the way back to being a miner and setting up a pool and stuff. It was really quite difficult for me, and I would write down instructions on exactly how to do each thing so that, you know, when my miner went down, I wouldn't have to like re-figure out how to do everything. I just go back to my instructions that I wrote for myself and restart it from that. So since I wasn't as technical as some other people, it wasn't my natural place. That's probably where it really started, and I loved explaining this technology to other people because I thought that it was really powerful and interesting and could change people's lives. And so I started writing thought leadership pieces around that, specifically for Factom, to help spread the word about how interesting this technology was. And through those thought leadership pieces, my publisher found me and then asked me if I'd be interested in writing a dummies book about it, because they liked that I was approaching it from a business perspective, like what's the value proposition to your average person or to a business, and they liked that perspective. So that's how I got involved with the Wiley Group, and how I ended up writing a book for them.
Did it take a long time? Like, what's the process like? Because I've been thinking about writing a book, but maybe a little bit more from my perspective, and making it, I don't know, initially I thought I would just interview a bunch of my smart friends and sort of source it out in that way, because I think that's this weird nexus where I am, where I just, you know, I'm not the most technical person, but I know who to ask about the different things, and I love sharing my friends. But I was also thinking a little bit about writing my own backstory and what exactly inspired me as a musician to be so intrigued by Bitcoin and blockchain. But, you know, it's a bit of a daunting task. So how did you approach it for people that are kind of thinking about that?
I'm a lot like you in this space. Maybe I'm not the most technical person. I know how to do a lot of things, and if I go slowly, then I can make it work. The process that I went with writing was kind of similar. Like, I'm not actually a natural writer. It's not something that really came to me naturally. So I just kept on reiterating on the process, and it was really wonderful having my editors coaching me and keeping me on track. So one of the things that's really important is setting a schedule, like understanding exactly how long it takes you to write. And I had this instructor in college. She was wonderful. She taught me that sometimes, like, when you just can't get something down, you just need to like write. I can't write anything right now. I can't write anything. I have no thoughts. Just you write that down on this until your brain starts kicking in and getting that working. So sometimes I would do that because writing the book, I only had a couple months to do it between when we finalized our contract and when we needed to get it published so it could come out in the spring. So it was a very fast turnaround on the book. I think it was probably November when I started on it, and then I think it was March 6th is when I had to have the last edits in. So, I mean, that's only a few months. And I'm a working executive, so I'm doing a lot of other things at the same time. So that meant every night and every weekend, it was either researching for the book or writing the book. So it's not easy, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll put that off. So
You don't
what do you?
have to take a couple of months. You could take, a year or something to write it. The table of contents is a great place to start. Is like, what do you actually want to put in this book? Yeah.
Oh, that's a good tip. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I spoke with Jeffrey Tucker about his writing method, and he says that just every day he sits down and writes, and that's, I guess, the consistency. I guess it's a little bit like meditation, right? People are like, I don't know how to meditate. It's like, just sit there. But the difficulty is actually taking that first initiative to actually sit down. And that's probably the biggest part of the battle. What do you think are one of the misconceptions about blockchain? And are you pro Bitcoin, or are you just like blockchain as well?
Oh, good questions. Okay, so am I pro Bitcoin? Yes, I like Bitcoin. I think it's very, very interesting. It sort of got us all into the space, so it would be hard not to be pro Bitcoin. I'm interested in a lot of other projects too that are second and third iterations and phases of this technology, where I think Bitcoin taught us the very simple, let's move value between ourselves very, very well in a way that can't be backdated or changed. I think that was very, very fundamental to everything. And then everything else is sort of like built off of that idea for the different use cases where maybe Bitcoin would be a little bit too slow or too expensive. So, yeah.
Right. So then what do people, like when you're trying to explain it to people, where do people often find themselves lost? Like, what's a clarification point that you usually find that you need to make? Like where with go ahead.
When I first started in this space, I was down in Plug and Play, which is an incubator in Silicon Valley that my company went through. And so every day, a couple times a day actually, I would have executives come in and I would be asked to teach them about my company and about this technology. And so a lot of times they're just sort of like on a innovation field trip where they're going to go see baby startups and see what they're up to. And so I'd ask this question. I'm like, hey, who knows what Bitcoin is? And maybe there'd be two guys in the back being like, oh yeah, we are so excited about it, out of like 20 people or something. And then the rest of them are just like confused and are like, why are we talking about like the stuff used to buy like drugs on the internet? They're super confused. And then I'd be like, has anybody heard of blockchain? And everybody's like, what? And then by the end of that time I had, which was about a year, people were really excited. Not only do they know what Bitcoin was, but they also knew what blockchain was, and they knew that it was going to be important for their business. And that shift in 1 year was pretty amazing. The thing that I still kind of get stuck on sometimes, and it might just be, I haven't found a way to explain it clear enough, is people are finally like, but why does it have value? Why does cryptocurrency have value? Why does everyone, is it some kind of scheme? And so then I start to talk about psychology, sociology, economics, global politics, supply and demand, like all of these different things that sort of go into why I'm like, well, why does a dollar have value? Because a large group of people decide it does, and the more people that decide something has value, the more value it has. And then you also have some limiting factors that help make sure that, how much value we place on it based off of supply and demand, right? So I think that's one of those pieces that some people are still kind of like getting stuck on, is like, wait, how is this different than what we already have? And it's like, think of, maybe 1919 when people are just starting to get cars, and they're like, but we have a horse and buggy, it gets us to the store. And but you're like, no, you don't understand. I have this car, you put the gas in, it's so much better, trust me, it's better. And they're like, no, but I can still get to the store. I'm like, yes you can. And sometimes you're just like, I can't argue with you anymore.
Well, that's what I thought was so interesting about Bitcoin was, even though, you know, I like a lot of different projects, Bitcoin will always have my heart. I also think of it as a bit of a representation of the community in a lot of ways, and the reasons why I got involved. But as somebody who's a libertarian and trying to explain to people some of the things that I actually felt we had in common, but the labels of Bitcoin, and I'm sorry, of you know, Democrat or Republican sort of would prevent people from communicating. What I loved about cryptocurrency is that you could really get to the meat and potatoes of why I believed the way that I believed. And a lot of that was rooted in the Federal Reserve and what were the problems inherent with a centrally controlled currency. And in a way, I feel that if mankind is asking what is money, that in itself is just such a huge leap forward in the consciousness, because people have never thought about it before. I mean, not on a massive scale. And seeing all these kind of competing currencies and competing projects, and some of them not necessarily competing, running sort of in tandem in a complementary way, I think is maybe even more educational than sitting around being like, listen, you got to check out this Murray Rothbard guy, which I don't think really works very well. What are some of the other projects in the space that you're excited about?
You know, there's a lot of really interesting things happening, and what's happening with ICOs right now is pretty amazing. It's sort of like a new way of crowdfunding the next generation of projects on blockchain technology. One that I'm looking at right now is called Poet, and I thought that it might be interesting for artists because it allows them a way to monetize their assets and track them, which is kind of cool. And there's been a lot of projects sort of around that where there's this really core problem of, like, you are creative, you're creating something really interesting and powerful, but you're kind of afraid to put it out into the world because, like, people will steal it, and how do you get paid for it? And it's sort of like, you know, it makes me think, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but, you know, when we were kids and there was Napster, and it was just easier for everyone to download music off of Napster because there wasn't an easy way to get a hold of music. But then once you get things like Spotify and iTunes and some of these other things that allow you to have an easier way of consuming content, then people do want to do the right thing. So I think that these projects that make it easier to do commerce, that solve real problems, and allow for more inclusion of people that are creatives, that are creating interesting things, I think that's really powerful. Yeah.
You know, I've had Poet explained to me so many times, and I still don't really understand the utility. I don't understand how it's any different from, I don't know, like, doesn't it require everybody to sort of agree to look at that one place as the place of storage? I mean, sure, everybody's got to aspire to that, but that seemed to be a little bit of the problem for me. Like, there's a project called Dot Blockchain, and that's what they're trying to do, is basically put a place where all your work is registered, and you can license it through there. Would you say that that's a similar project?
You know, the project hasn't been developed
launched
yet.
You know?
Right? It hasn't been launched yet, so I think it's too early to say if it's one way or another. But I think that you're right about that. Like, that is one of those problems that needs to be solved. Is like, a lot of times with blockchain technology, we go around this concept of decentralization, and then we centralize it because we haven't found a way to totally live in a blockchain world. But every time that there's centralization, I mean, exchanges are a great example of that. That's a vulnerability in the system. And I think that you're right around, like, just like money, it's becomes powerful the more people that have access to it. So building projects around that concept of how do we make sure that there's as much inclusion as possible is important.
Cool. So what's next? What are you doing the rest of the summer, the rest of this year? What's on the agenda for Factom?
So Factom is doing great. We raised an A round this past spring. We brought on an amazing set of executives that are building out our technology on the technical side. And we also brought in some executives from our investors, who are Stuart Title, that are building our products. They have 20 years of experience building and selling these products to financial institutions. And they're doing really amazing stuff. For Tiana, I'm actually going to take some vacation in August. I'm really excited. A friend of mine is, he's an inventor, and he's invented some new types of IoT devices. So I'm going to go help him fabricate some IoT devices back home. And I'm really excited about that.
That doesn't sound like a vacation, by the way, just so you know. There was no beach involved.
It's kind of like arts and crafts for me. So I'm really excited for that. Yeah, that's kind of what I have on deck for the next bit.
Well, yep. That's all good stuff. I really hope to see you soon. Are you planning on being in New York at all? I'll have to look you up if I'm in Austin, but we're on the best coast, but we're still too far away.
Too far away. I'll just have to make a trip up to see you. I think that's what
I like that idea. Very good. All right. Well, thanks, Tiana. One more time before we go, can you tell people where to connect with you, where they can buy your book?
Mm-hmm. Twitter's a great place to hit me up, and it's Lawrence Tiana. I don't know why it had to be backwards, but it is. Or, find me on Amazon and get my book.
Awesome. Yep. Everybody go out and get Blockchain for Dummies by my good friend, Tiana Lawrence. Thank you for joining us today.
Bye.
Bye. All right, guys. So we have a surprise guest before we're going to bring on Terry. I just wanted to bring on my friend June for a quick little segment. We're going to talk about the 100X Investors event I'm going to be singing at. It's actually a webinar. And June, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us today. You have to hit the unmute button in order to be unmuted. Okay, June, gotta press the unmute button. Or not. Anyway, fine. June's not coming on after all. I guess we'll just bring on Terry because he's all set and ready to go. Terry Brock, if you could just hit your unmute button, we could have you on the show.
And there we go. Look like
now here's my buddy. What's going on? How's it going, Terry?
It is going really well. And how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm happy I'm in California. I was at Freedom Fest last week, which, as you know, is a really intense event. And God, I hate Vegas so much. I have a lot of friends in Vegas that I got to meet up with, but Vegas itself is, to me, the 10th circle of hell.
That's one part of it.
Yeah, so it's been.
You can tell us about here in public.
So it's been a little while since I saw you last. Well, what's been going on since the Free Rossathon? What have you been up to? And by the way, I just want to publicly acknowledge Terry Brock and Gina Carr were the impetus for the Free Rossathon, and we all worked really hard on it. And I know that Lynn really appreciates it, and so do I, and of course Ross. So for folks that are at home, maybe you want to tell us a little bit about how that kind of started and what we did with Free Rossathon, and if we're going to do another one. We haven't discussed it, but I think we may need to do another one.
Yeah, we're thinking about that as well. Of course, we know this is for Ross Ulbricht, a person who we felt has been dealt a severe injustice and is serving 2 life prison terms plus a bunch of other nonsense for committing no violent crime. And by the way, no chance of parole, something that's terrible. And so we look at this as a way that we can help people. I've been using Google Hangouts and many things before that. As you know, Tatiana was the chief enterprise blogger for Skype. So I've been using video a lot, and I thought, we could put together an event where we could bring in wonderful people from around the world to interview them and have a kind of a telethon, only do it on Google Hangouts and get it out there. So we started putting it together, and you were part of the team. Brian Sovereign, who's hanging around in the background right now today, that Rated R radio star back there, was part of it as well, helping us out, and of course, Lynn Ulbricht. And we ended up doing 8 hours of a video on Google Hangouts, and we had predominantly Lynn Ulbricht, myself there on the camera, and you were there in the studio for the full 8 hours. At least I think it was most of the 8 hours. And and Jim Babb joining us also. I say Jim Babb, I point this way because he was over on my right. And we had a great time with people really wanting to help Ross Ulbricht. It went very well. We had over 14,000 people join us over that 8 hours, and we raised over $50,000. 100% of that went to the defense fund of Ross Ulbricht. So we were very pleased to see that. And Tatiana, it was really good working with you on that.
Yeah, I had a really great time. It was pretty intense. I think, when we first started planning for that, I thought, oh, it'll be a couple calls and whatever. It turned into a pretty unwieldy beast, but I know that it uplifted Ross. Ross has actually just moved to Florence, Colorado, so he'll be there for a while. And, of course, Lynn is still raising money and awareness around her son and trying to get him out of there, which we're all quite passionate about. I think anybody who gets to know Ross understands the travesty, and it's nice to see a human face associated with something that, in general, if I see some criminals on TV, it's very difficult to evoke sympathy, but there are human stories behind what's going on, and it's good to have a lot of people kind of spreading the word, because it's a problem. The drug war and the prison industrial complex are essentially ways of enslaving mankind, Americans, and even people from around the world, and it's barbaric.
Yeah.
But on a happier note, so tell us a little bit about people who don't know about you. What's your background? Because you've done a lot of public speaking, and you've been doing it for a long time. So give us a little bit of an insight into that, and maybe some things that you've learned along the way.
Well, I help people figure out how to use important stuff. Things that are out there like technology, how to use that, particularly from a business point of view. And I'm a communicator. I'm by training a journalist. I've been a professional speaker since 1983 and bouncing around the world, and now have hit, what is it now, 38, 39 countries that I've been to. Just was over in Greece recently. But getting a chance to work with people and work with clients, talking about how we can take this technology and move it into a realm that is going to be very helpful for people. That's something that where I have to agree with you and Tiana. We're talking about blockchain. I see that as doing a tremendous amount of good, and it will be as big or bigger than the internet itself. I see what's happening. Yes, it is good with Bitcoin, and I have to agree with you. There's always a love for Bitcoin because, hey, that's what brought us to the dance, okay? We like Bitcoin. We want to work with it. Are there altcoins out there? Yeah, there's a lot of them, and I think it's wonderful that in the free market of ideas, in the free market of various coins that are out there, we can have one coin that might do certain better tracking of records, like Factom we see, or Ethereum. But then we also see others like Dash that have certain capabilities of lower transaction fees, faster, and a little more privacy in there. And so you can find what works for you, much like when you go to a store, you don't have to get only one item, you can get several. And I like that, and I see that's what's happening. So for me, I coach people on how to use this technology, how to do more effective marketing. By the way, you were talking about books before, so I have to, shameless plug, show you the book that Gina Carr and I put together. This is a McGraw-Hill book, Clout Matters, came out a few years ago.
When did that come out?
And we talk about social media, it's how to measure it and all this. This was the premier book on that. McGraw-Hill asked us to write that for him, so we did. And I think writing a book is an excellent way to get your message out. So Tatiana, I would really encourage you to doing that, and sitting down, writing a little bit every day is a good thing. Get the information, collect a lot, be an information vacuum cleaner. Get a lot of information and then collate it, put it into the right categories, and then make it happen.
Very cool. So what else is going on? I know that you just had that big speaking association thing in Florida. Any news? Are you doing any new speaking gigs and stuff?
Yeah, we're seeing, we just had a meeting for the annual convention, now called Influence. And so it was Influence 2017, imagine that, this year doing it. Influence 2017 for the National Speakers Association. We're the NSA that does the talking. The other NSA does the listening. And so we're kind of in difference from them, but we're getting a chance to learn about how we can send messages out. And one of the things I'm doing, Tatiana, is I'm finding I'm doing a lot more now online. Sending out messages through, like we're doing here with Google, and sending out over YouTube, but also doing a whole lot now over Facebook, particularly with Facebook Live, when we can do Facebook Live in conjunction with something like BlueJeans or Zoom that gives kind of an ad on top of that to give you the ability to send your message out to a specific group. So if you say, I want only this group to see my message, they can do that using those kind of tools. So you've got a targeted message for people that really want to hear about it. And it gives you the ability for people that are like us, divergent thinkers. We can focus on this group with this message, but then do another one later that afternoon for this group over here that might be a little different. That gives us the ability to market more effectively, to be more excited about what we're doing and be able to help a great number of people that way. So I'm pretty excited about what's going on now with video and with the opportunities in many other areas. And for me also, the coaching that I do. I love being able to sit down with people and show them specifically, here's how you do this, whatever this might be for them, whether it's learning how they can speak better or how they can write better or how to get online, use something like Facebook or Google or blockchain items like Bitcoin right now as well.
So what are your quick tips? Do you have any like off the cuff that you just want to give away for a little teaser for our audience?
Yeah, let me expand on what I mentioned before. I think if you want to do something on Facebook, what you want to do is you want to do something that helps you to stand out in a favorable way. That's the key. A lot of people are using it, but a lot of people are not using Facebook, and they think all you're going to do is just come up there and say, hi, I'm wonderful, here's my stuff, and here's what I'm doing. Well, frankly, we don't care. What we do care about is how it will help us. And so if you can have other tools, like I mentioned Zoom, or I'm using BlueJeans, only because when I got it last year, bought the year subscription, BlueJeans was the only one that's there. But it gives you the ability to connect with not just one, but up to 25 people on the screen, and then go out to a group, and you can go on your own timeline if you want on Facebook. So you've got enormous potential to reach people doing something like, say, a how-to video with an expert. I did that just last week with a person that you and I know, Star O'Hara. Got a chance to talk with her about Steemit. And what we did is, Tatiana, we went out and I had her there talking about it, but then we also had her share her screen. So we could say, here's specifically what you can do on Steemit. See this little thing here? You click on that and you click on this and this will do this for you. So they were able to see what's there, be able to learn from that. And we did it for a special group called the Social Media Partners within the National Speakers Association. So it was a closed group. You had to be in that group in order to see the video. And we had her show, a lot of intimate details of what can be done with Steemit and how to use it. So that would be a tip that I would give, is using that kind of tool. Often your real expertise in today's world and the way that you stand out is when you take one feature that you've got, and then you take another feature and you put those together, and they're not necessarily related. Like, for instance, I'll use an example. I have a real dear friend who is an artist, sings, does a very good job of singing, but she also knows about Bitcoin, and she's even put a song together called Use Bitcoin Whenever You Pay. And by doing that, that's you, Tatiana, of course, putting that together, that's a brilliant combination, because there's a lot of singers out there. There's a lot of people that are using Bitcoin, not very many of them that have their own coin, a Tatiana coin, and can talk about Bitcoin intelligently, educate us as you do, and sing about it, so that we go, hey, sing that one again, will you? It's because, like, I've heard it a billion times and I want to hear it again more and more, which is, by the way, for those of you that are going, yeah, I agree with Terry on that, that's a good reason to buy it. Okay, it's available. She can work out a deal. Get in touch with Tatiana on that. But the idea is, take two different areas, put these together. I've often said, if you can be like an engineer and you really know engineering skills well, but you also know Japanese, now you can put those together, and you might be a Native American who would speak English, and you're speaking, English is your native language, you're using that, but you also understand Japanese and engineering, and when you can put those together, now you're onto something.
I like it. I like it very much. So if people want to kind of learn about you more, wait, are you on Steemit? What have you thought about Steemit?
Oh yeah, I've been using Steemit and loving it. I'm getting started with it, in that I've been with it since August of last year. And for some, they're saying is there, but I'm finding I'm doing a lot, probably about 4 to 5 posts a week. And I'd like to crank that up. I'm making some money with it, a few $1,000s. And so I like that and want to do more with it. And of course, Tatiana, you and I were there at Steemfest in Amsterdam this last year. Got a chance to see that and see what's happening and how it's growing. I think it's a great way for people, if someone's going, what is that, Margaret? What's that Steemit thing? Well, Steemit is a tool where, unlike Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn and other platforms where you put a lot of information out there, but you don't get paid for it, with Steemit, you produce content and you can get paid for it. depending on how good it is, how many others like what you're doing, the kind of others that like it. And matter of fact, Tatiana, I find it interesting. You know, I joke about our book here, Clout Matters. Clout is a way to measure how effective you really are in social media. Now, it's when we wrote this, it was quite different than it is today. This a few years ago when it was first out. But still, there's a lot of similarities that you want to write good quality content that others deem is good quality. I might think, hey, I put this one out and it is the coolest piece that's ever been out anywhere. Oh, my content is really great. Well, that's real good, Sparky, but what matters is what the others are going to say about it. And then you get a chance to get voted and get real dollars with that. I mean, you get Steam dollars, and of course, those can be converted then to US dollars or other fiat currencies, and you would be able to use it that way. Or you can convert it over to Bitcoin, or from some of the exchanges like Shapeshift, etc. You can convert it to a number of different altcoins that are out there. So I kind of like Steemit. I really am enjoying it. And tell me, what are you doing with Steemit these days?
Oh, I don't know, just posting. I'm running around. I have so much stuff going on. Nothing particularly riveting going on the Steemit front. I'm curious about when the next event is going to be because I'd like to go. I loved Amsterdam.
Well, their next event is going to be in Lisbon, Portugal, and I'm looking at
even
calendar.
Better.
November 1 through number 5. Actually, it's 1, 2, and 3, then 4 and 5 are the extra days, but that'll be over in Lisbon, Portugal. And have you ever been to Lisbon?
I've never been to Portugal or to Spain, so I would like to. I'd like to make a trip out there.
These days.
Very good, very cool. So if people want to catch back up with you, Terry, where can they go, and how can they find out more about your coaching and stuff like that?
They can find out a lot about what I'm doing on the blockchain by going to Brock. That's BROCK, brockonblockchain.com. So if you remember that website, brockonblockchain.com, you'll be all set.
Very cool. All right. Well, listen, I really appreciate you coming on the show today. Unfortunately, June is having some technical issues, but really quick, I just wanted to tell people about the upcoming event. Are you going to be checking in with us, Terry? I wish you were on this event. I don't know what happened there. We got to have you on the next one. So do you have any plans on attending? Because you do a lot of webinars, right?
Oh, yeah. Do a lot of video with Zoom and with a little bit with Skype, and then we Hangouts and, you know, all kinds of tools.
Yeah. So do you think that, like, you know, I think this is June's first webinar thing. Do you have any tips for organizers on how to make that effective? Because I like the idea of not having to go to a conference, even though it's nice to see everybody. Not everybody can afford to take the time off, and it could be quite expensive. So any tips on that? Like what makes a good webinar?
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. I think they're really good. It's a way for people to get together. And I think what you want to do is you want to check the audio and the video, kind of like, by the way, for those of you who are watching what's going on in the background, we have the wonderful, dashing, and charming Brian Sovereign taking care of the things with the audio and with the video and all that. Like, for instance, today, I was going to get real nitty gritty here. When we came on, I'm using my microphone right here. How's my voice coming through, by the way, Tatiana?
Very well.
Good. And you want to
It's always sounding good from on your end. You're like the most prepared person that I know. You know, we had all those hiccups happening in the background of the free Rossathon, but I was like typing away, and you're like, everything's fine, which it was fine, but you know, it's hard to put on a live event, I think. So
yeah, it is. There's some challenges, and I got all kinds of checklists, and it's something I coach people on do that. But I would say very important, like Brian Sovereign did for the free Rossathon, was really important. He checked with every person to make sure their audio and their video were working about 2 hours at least, sometimes more than that, before they were on. And the challenge there is going to be more psychological, because a lot of people will go, oh, I know how to do it. I've done this so many times. Don't worry about me. That's when your red flag should go up. Because the ones that are going, oh, I know how to do it. No, 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 no. Even though you've done it a billion times there, come on, Scooter, get on here. You're going to do it. We're going to check just to make sure it's okay. Because inevitably, I've seen it. People that think, oh, it's going to be okay. They try and it's not working. They're going, oh, what am I going to do? Oh, gee, what am I going to do? Oh, there's something wrong. It's that technology. No, it's not the technology. It's called you didn't prepare. So I'm on a rant right now, but check that out. Make sure your audio, your video are working right, and find out things like, for instance, what's behind you. You know, too often people, I remember, Tatiana, I got to tell you, when I was working with Skype, I deal with some of the really brilliant people there, work with them. I loved it, and a lot of people I would do. We'd put everything together. We're checking audio, we're checking video, and we get right down to almost going on the air, and I'm going, oh, Ralph, that picture over your left shoulder, you might not want the whole world seeing that. And they look and go, oh yeah, I better take that one down. Yeah, little things like that really make all the difference in the world. So it's like my friend Harvey McKay talks about. He said, people say little things mean a lot. Not true. Little things mean everything. So check that out when you're on video and audio, and you'll have a much better experience for everyone involved.
All right. Well, you have such a wealth of information. Is the brockonblockchain.com site the only site to get your information, or is that just like, because you talk about so many different topics?
Oh, yeah.
And also what you do is
go to terrybrock.com. Pretty clever, huh? terrybrock.com. You go there, and matter of fact, that's Terry, and Brock is spelled the right way, B-R-O-C-K. So terrybrock.com. And by the way, I'm glad I got that because, by the way, there are several other Terry Brocks out there. And
oh, really?
Matter of fact, one of them is a singer.
You're the only Terry Brock to me.
Well, you're very kind. And you're the only Tatiana Moroz to me. But there's another Terry Brock, and he sang in this little group called Kansas. Remember, like, Carry On Our Wayward Son?
Yeah, that's a great song.
Which is great. The band was great. And Terry Brock, I'm going to meet him someday. And I will, because when I first met Gina and got to know her, she told her brother she was going to see this guy named Terry Brock. And he goes, oh, I know Terry Brock. And her brother's saying this. He's a musician and the thing. He goes, yeah, I know him. I get together with him. And he's saying, she goes, wait a minute, that's a different guy. And come to find out, he knows the other Terry Brock who didn't get terrybrock.com.
Well, I feel bad for that guy.
But I hear he's a good guy. So we're going to have a Terry Brock dinner sometime with Terry Brock and Terry Brock. It'll be cool.
Oh, well, I hope you and I and Gina, we get together soon before Lynn moves out. I don't know if y'all are planning on being in New York at all, but it'd be really nice to see you. But I'm sure that I'll see you at something soon. And by the way, random plug for Terry. If anybody has an event and they need an MC, Terry is the most professional MC I've ever seen. Although Naomi Brockwell did a fantastic job. So in the male category, Terry Brock is the winner.
Brockwell. I think she's my cousin.
That's very funny. Okay, great. So thanks, Terry, for coming on. Everybody, please check in with him. We're going to give it one more try with June, and then if it's not going to work, then we'll see what happens. June, can we hear you?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, that sounds great. So if you can, we've only got a few minutes left for the show, but if you could give us a little quick overview about the awesome event that you have planned, 100X Investors. I was going to try and plug it myself, but now we've got you to tell us about it. What made you want to start and do this event, and when is it?
Yeah, it's August 8th and 9th. It's a educational blockchain investor summit. And the reason why I wanted to do it is I figured, this is kind of like the Wild West, and people are talking about ICOs, this and that, and there's just a lot of things to sort out. And so I figured, this would be valuable for people who have been investing in cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin and are new to this space as well. So figured, this is very timely, and I figured I can offer some help there. So
have you had any experience? Have you had any experience organizing events like that previously?
This is brand new to me. So this is it's fun. It's exciting. I've organized smaller local meetups. So, I mean, that helps, but doing a conference and a webinar style conference is very new to me. So, knock on wood. I mean, we'll see like how it goes.
Well, I think it's going to go great. Why don't you tell people a little bit about the speakers that you have lined up?
Yeah. So we have an incredible lineup, the who's who of, I think, the blockchain world. And, Tim Draper, actually just, that's going to actually be a pre-recorded session because I just got off with an interview with him. But most of them are going to be live. So we have, just people who founded blockchain technologies. Joseph Lubin, Joey Krug, Jed McCaleb, Dave Sonstebo, just the list goes on and on. I mean, if you go to 100xinvestors.com, you'll see an entire list of people who are founders, who've created platforms, who've are doing startups. So it's a jam-packed event with just a lot of content. First day will be more about public blockchains. The second day will be more on the enterprise track, and then we'll also have workshops where I'll be going through, just guiding people through how to trade on various different platforms. So I'm excited about that as well. Just so this would be kind of hands-on, intensive training of like what to look for and just how to trade. Like how each platform is a little different. So whether you're trading just Bitcoin itself or altcoins, there's just navigating different platforms is what I'm hoping to educate people about. So, and then ICOs as well, participating in ICOs. Okay. It's just that's the hot thing. So we'll see which ones are kind of going on, and we'll just at least demo how to invest in an ICO. And also, we have a workshop where if you want to launch an ICO, we'll have some people help out and do a session on that. So there's workshops like that we're planning. So.
Okay, good. I'm looking on the site right now. I noticed that I'm not on the site. What's going on, June? I thought I was singing. I'm not even listed on here.
Yeah. No, we'll definitely have you on. This is, again, when you organize things are just always like, you're juggling a bunch of different things. So,
okay, well, I want to see my face on here. I'm excited to be a part of it. I'm going to be singing a song. And, for people, the tickets are pretty inexpensive. If you use my coupon code, it's it's Tatiana20. Is it Tatiana20? I thought it was TM20.
I think it is TM20, but
it's TM20. That's what I thought. Okay, so if you guys want to get 20% off of your ticket, you can use the code TM20. And I've got a lot of good friends that are going to be speaking and stuff, so looking forward to it. Thanks for coming on, June, and I'll see you in August.
Sounds great. Thanks so much, Tatiana, and thanks Brian for helping me get on this. I'm on my phone right now. I can get my other computer to work, so.
Yeah, that happens sometime. And just a quick thank you to all of our sponsors. The BitcoinCPA.com, FreeRoss.org is a great organization. Well, not organization. It's a family that's trying to get their son out of jail. If you guys shop on Amazon, you want to help the family, you could just click on the Amazon link. ThirdKey.Solutions. Two of my favorite podcasts, Sovereign Tech and Sex and Science Hour. My t-shirts, I got them made at LibertyCraze.com. Dana did an awesome job for me. And my makeup, if you like my makeup, I've been doing Beauty Counter, which has like no weird, creepy chemicals. It does have some chemicals, but not any that have been proven toxic, unlike a lot of the makeup out there. So you can click on the link, beautycounter.com/Tatiana Moroz. If you want to pick up my new record, it's at TatianaMoroz.com, called Keep the Faith. And if you need any help with your events or your marketing, you can go to CryptoMediaHub.com. We can give you advice. If we can't help you, we'll send you somebody who can. Thanks, everybody, for checking in. We'll see you next week, and peace out. Bye.